Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create a faux rose quartz. So what you're going to need is powder polymer clay, and you're going to need translucent pink powder and translucent powder. And now if you are in the US, the best place to buy this that I have tried is Linda's Art Spot. I'll provide a link to that. If you are in Europe, you can try Happy Things. I'll provide a link to that as well. And if you are in Australia, Over the Rainbow is a great place as well. So I'll provide a link there as well. Then what you want to do is you want to take those two colours and you want to mix equal parts together to create this colour here. And this is what we're going to use to create our rose quartz. So now Pondo's a little bit harder than most clays, and that's fine. It works very well for our technique here because we want nice sharp edges, so that our rose quartz looks like it has little fractures through it. Okay, and you could substitute this with Primer. Just mix a tiny bit of pink in with translucent Primer, and then you can use the same effect. Same technique that I'm showing, but it's not going to look as good because the powder is a lot more translucent, and that is pretty important for this technique today. So once you've got it rolled into a log, you're just going to take a blade. What you're going to do is you're just going to start chopping it into sections like so, and you want nice fine sections. And this is where the powder is quite nice because it holds its shape, it doesn't get squished. Okay, there we go. And once you've got something that looks roughly like this, what you can do is you just gently run your fingers through it, try and separate it out because some of the pieces do start to stick together, like so. And now, if you're using Primer, you can use white paint for the next step, but with powder or Cernit, and I think Fimo as well, the clay doesn't like anything that has water in it and can start to get really mushy, squishy and gross. So what I like to do is I like to substitute it with Pinata Ink's white alcohol ink. And this is an opaque white alcohol ink. You can use my white pastels or white mica powder as well, but you're going to find that sticking the pieces together is going to be rather difficult, so the easiest thing to do is to just take this Pinata ink. And this I use in a lot of faux stone techniques, so it's definitely something to look into getting if you like working with faux stone techniques. However, if this is just a once-off thing for you and you don't tend to work with polymer clay faux stone techniques that much, then it's not a must. You can always use pastels or you can use white paint depending on whether or not you're working with powder or not. Okay, and then once you've got a decent cover like that, you can let that either air dry or you can use a hairdryer or a heat gun on the lowest heat setting to just dry it faster. And then once it's somewhat dry, gently press it together again, like so. Okay. Just make sure all those pieces are all together, and then chop it again. And make sure you do that nice and fine. Okay. And then we will basically take the Pinata ink and we'll just coat it in ink again. And then when we're done with that, we will let that dry completely. You will maybe want to leave that for around an hour just to make sure that it is properly dry. And then we can form our pendant with it. We're going to be making a cute little heart. So let's just quickly dump that ink on it. There we go. Just separate these pieces, make sure you get the ink in there. It doesn't have to be a perfect coat, you just want a rough coat, because this is what's going to be forming the fractures in our stone. Okay, and when you're done, just lay it out on your tile, let that dry, and then when we're done, I will show you what to do next. Okay, so here it is, and I've just got it sitting on a piece of paper because that's going to be helping to absorb the excess ink. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this around. It keeps sticking to me. Just move it around so that you have a wide coverage. There, so you've just got kind of a pile of it. Then take another piece of paper and just gently start pressing. And the paper is just going to prevent your hands from getting sticky. And don't use a roller, you don't want to be doing that. Just want to be squishing this together, like so. And what we're doing is we've squished it into a flat shape. You don't want to be squishing it into a cane shape because we want to be cutting out something, so we don't want it in a cane, we want it more of a veneer shape. And I'm just pressing this all together. And the reason you don't want it in a cane shape is because then you might be able to see the joins, whereas if you have it in a veneer shape like this, then it's going to look more uniform and more realistic. Okay, now I'm just going to take another piece of paper and same piece of paper, and I'm just going to roll it so that it becomes even. And you can see that's starting to look better. Okay, just stick that down again, and I'm going to roll again. And all I'm doing is I'm just trying to get rid of any big cracks. Some small cracks are fine, that actually adds to the realistic element. But you just want it all well stuck together in general. Okay, so that's pretty good. So hopefully you can see that that's basically flat around in the middle here where we're going to be cutting. There are some minor cracks, but in general that's fine. Okay, and now before we cut out anything, I want to lift it off of the paper. So just position your hands well out of the way. There we go. And I actually want to just burnish this down onto my tile, because it's much harder lifting up a cut-out piece from a piece of paper it's stuck to than a tile that it is stuck to. Okay, there we are. Okay, and I'm going to be using my largest heart donut. And you can see it fits quite nicely. I just want to give it one final burnish. Okay, there we go. So that it's nice and even and ready to go. There, we're going to cut this out, and keep in mind that because of the fact that it's a fairly thin border around the donut, we're going to have a slight dome effect, which is something that we want. It's going to create cracks. That's fine, don't stress about it, that is very easily fixed. Just push all the way around this. You want a nice clean cut, and then lift straight up. Peel away your excess. There we go. And then what I like to do is I like to gently press along these sides And I don't mind these cracks. These cracks will give a nice stone look to it. That I am not worried about. And I do just want to get this out. There we are. Gently press along the edges. You can use any cutter you want, but I thought a heart was quite appropriate since it is rose quartz. I'm just pressing along the edges just to get these cracks to just mellow out a little bit. But I don't want to get them to disappear completely. And don't worry about smoothing out fingerprints, because we're going to be doing a fair bit of sanding later on, and fingerprints will be taken care of. Just pressing along the sides now, just to make sure that first off the cracks are mellowed out, and also it will help provide a little bit more of a domed effect. Now put these to the side and I'll show you what to do with them in a moment. Then this needs to go in the oven for a full hour at Pardo's recommended temperature. Okay, now while that's in the oven, grab these excess bits. What we're going to do is we're just going to give those a light chop again. Just to break up the shape of the cut lines and stuff. So just chop it up nice and fine. And now the second round, it's not going to look as good as the first round, but it's a good way to salvage any leftovers you have. So just chop it so that you've got nice bits. Don't cover it in pinata ink again. Then I'm just going to squish it again, and we're going to take out another pendant. So basically you'll just chop it, and then you repeat what I showed before. You'll squish it down into a veneer, like so. And you're going to want to start with some clean pieces of paper. And you want to make it thick enough that you're not going to need a backing. So I'd say at least 2 millimeters thick. Okay, and you can see it doesn't look as nice as it did the first time round, but it still looks nice. If you don't want to use this and you want to start off with a nice fresh batch, what you can do is you can just mix this together to create a pretty pink colour, and then start the entire process from scratch. Okay, so I'll make another pendant, put it in the oven, and then we'll see what they look like when they are done. Okay, so these are out of the oven, and you can see that they have darkened quite a bit, and they've also going to have a layer of wax on them. So I'm not sure if you can see that, but just in general they're not going to look great after they are out of the oven. So now you want to start sanding, and I'm using wet dry sandpaper, and I'm going to start with a 360, and I'm going to work my way up to a 1200. Okay. And you want to spend a fair amount of time doing this, because the more you do this, the better it's going to look. Okay, so I'll just continue doing this, and then I'll go through each of the grits, sand away the excess to reveal the beautiful pattern underneath. Okay, so here they are now that I have sanded them with the wet dry sandpaper. And then I've also gone and taken some polishing papers which start from a 400 and work their way up to an 8000. And they have finer grits than the wet dry sandpaper. So it's wet dry sandpaper from 400 to a 1200, and then polishing papers from a 400 to an 8000. And you will get something that looks very similar to this. No buff, just sanding. And that is mainly because of the brand of clay that we're using. I found that Pardo buffs up or sands up much better than Prima. I haven't fully explored it yet, but just some brands of polymer clay you'll find that they will end up having a much shinier finish than others. So now we're going to buff them, and this is optional. I mean, they look great the way they are, but if you want them to have a really nice shiny finish, you can always take a Dremel, and this is the Dremel 3000, and you can give them a good buff. And just before I do that, just want to point out the difference between these two. This is the original one, as you can see, and this is the one where we kind of re-chopped it and put it back together. It looks quite different, but it still does look like rose quartz. And another thing I want to point out is this is quite dark for rose quartz. It's quite a dark rose quartz. If you want something that is lighter, just add more translucent with the colour recipe. This colour recipe was 1 part translucent to 1 part translucent pink powder. If you increase the translucent amount when you mix it up, you'll end up with a lighter colour. Okay, so let's begin buffing this. Now I'm just going to tilt that around, and hopefully you can see the side that has been buffed versus the side that hasn't. Hopefully you can see how much shinier that is. So I'm going to continue buffing, and you also want to sand and buff the back as well. You can see that I've sanded it, and I just need to buff it. And I will repeat with this one. If you want some extra shine, you can add some Renaissance wax, but it is not completely necessary, as the shine, as you can see, is already really good. Okay, and here they are. And they look really beautiful. They've got a beautiful glass-like shine to them. And a lot of that is down to the brand of clay rather than how much you sand. The sanding really does make a difference, but some brands are just not going to shine up as much as the others. Now, the way I want to drill these is that they're hanging exactly like this. So I'm going to be drilling them right in the middle here. So, start drilling in the middle, like so. We make a little hole, and then start pushing. There we are. And that will create a hole big enough for a jump ring to fit through. And just make sure to clean up on the other side as well, so you've got a nice clean hole. And I'll repeat with this one. Okay, so for the next step, we want to prepare our stringing material. And I've got a rubber cord here, and you want to have a bail as well. I've got the bail on the cord. And also, got some cord ends here. I'm just going to push that through. Until it just pokes through on the other end, like so. And then just close it. Give it a nice squeeze so that it's properly in there. There we are. Then I'm just going to cut the other end, and I will repeat the process. There we are. Then grab the jump ring you've chosen to put onto your pendant, and just link that through your bail first. And this bit's a little tricky. Get one end in to your heart. And I'm struggling to show you this, I'm sorry about that. But you want to get one end into your heart. Bring the other end around, and position that into the other end, and then just give it a little squish so that it closes. making sure that's moving properly. Okay. And there we go. So sorry, that was a little fiddly, I couldn't show you that perfectly, but that's basically the gist of it. I'm going to do the same for another one. I've got a Kamihimo strand here and a different bale, and I'm going to link this one up. There we are. Now we've got both of those. Now all you want to do is just grab a jump ring, and this should be smaller than the one that you used to create the bale. Just going to open that up, and we're going to attach our chosen clasp. And I've got this cute little lock toggle clasp. So that's one piece, and you'll do the exact same on the other end, and then you'll repeat for your other necklace. And then I will show you what we have. Okay, and here they are, all finished. So you should be able to see in the photos in the beginning of the project more detailed photos of these, but in general that is what they look like. And you could wear them double-sided if you want to. I mean, the backs look just as nice as the fronts, they're just not domed. So if you didn't want a domed front, you could always just flip them over and wear on the back, which is always nice with the pendants. But in general, yeah, that's just about it for this project. Keep in mind you can use any translucent, coloured translucent clay in the powder line to create many different stones. You could try amethyst, blue calcite, yellow calcite, jade. You could try all sorts of things, so play around with them. You can use the exact same technique to create many different stones, so play around with it, just change up the colours and you could create just about anything you want. And let me know in the comments below what you think, and if you would like more tutorials like this one, please do consider becoming a patron of mine. It supports this channel and allows me to put out more tutorials like this one, so please check the links below for a link to my Patreon site. And as always, I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.